Double tap that screen, like the video, guys, and subscribe to the channel as well by hitting that icon above. And all right. That's enough plugging. Back to it.
Reconciliation 3, I think ultimately we're going to run out of time. So I think this is really going to be our last opportunity as we go into the summer to get major funding done. That again, that goes through some sort of appropriations process. And this idea that there'll be a reconciliation 3, I'm skeptical.
Met with Speaker Johnson earlier this week, and he also said he's pushing to be able to get that reconciliation package done by July. That may be possible in the House to be able to get that done, but it takes a month for us to be able to do it in the Senate. To get that done in the Senate is not possible by the end of July, which is not impossible to do a reconciliation 3.0 in November and December. That is more likely, I believe, to be able to get it finished up there, because there are things that still need to be done.
And that is Tennessee Congressman Andy Ogles and Oklahoma Senator James Lankford with me this week, both skeptical that the GOP will be able to pull off a third reconciliation package before the midterms, as House Speaker Mike Johnson is pushing to pass one before the House's August recess, which would be on a deadline of July 23rd. The measure would include affordability provisions, social program fraud crackdowns, defense money, as far as the Iran-related funding, as Republicans are forced to focus on immigration enforcement funding for their current second package, which is expected to be on the president's desk by June 1st. Joining me now is California Congressman KHANNA. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And as you know, your colleagues on the Republican side are being forced to rely on reconciliation to do appropriations. I mean, they've got to fund an important priority as immigration enforcement, but because you and your colleagues won't work with them at all, they've got to use reconciliation to do that. Isn't that irresponsible?
Well, they already have $75 billion for ICE over 4 years. We want certain reforms so that Americans aren't harassed by ICE officers, so that people's basic rights are upheld. I think most Americans want a secure border.
Okay, and this is where I always disagree with the Dems. I'm like, here's the thing. You guys are not letting the ICE officers do their jobs. Actually, you're letting people obstruct the ICE officers and then get surprised when something bad happens. Like I said, like, God rest their souls, Renee Good and Alex Preddy, but bro, they put themselves in that situation, and they shouldn't even been allowed to be that close. And there should have been some type of, what was it? What would they call it? It was supposed to be local law enforcement that's supposed to come out and do some type of protest. Yeah, protest protection. Keep the protesters, like, let them protest, but let them protest outside of ICE operations. That was not happening in Minnesota, and they were breaking through. They was putting their hands on ICE officers, obstructing, getting in the way, honking their horn in the middle of the street, letting nearby undocumented immigrants, let them know that ICE is in the area and let them get away. It's like, I'm sorry, but that's unacceptable. And I think the Dems need to do a better job of actually calling that out instead of saying, oh, but ICE bad. Like, I mean, look, there are some cases that are inexcusable, but you can't sit here and pretend like you guys amping up these protesters don't have nothing to do with it.
But they don't want ICE raids in their cities. And that is really the debate. And they should work to compromise so that we can move forward.
But
I mean, shoot, I'm all about compromising, but y'all actually got to make sure that local law enforcement is working with ICE. And the reason that y'all wasn't doing that is because you put a target on ICE back. They had to wear masks, or they was getting doxxed and their family was getting harassed. And you knew if you put local law enforcement there with ICE, the protesters would see them as ICE as well, and they would be forced to mask up. Because here's the thing, ICE officers, they don't even live in that state most of the time. So you be putting the local law enforcement in danger. And that's just how toxic of an environment it was with these ICE protests.
how much pressure can you put on this president at this point? I mean, you are just voting on everything against the president. The Democrats can't stand President Trump. Do you see a time to start working together?
Absolutely. But, you know, one of the things the president should do is end this war. I mean, 3 Republicans voted with us to end the war. Here's why the war is really hurting us. You talked about the Fed not cutting rates. Part of the reason they can't cut rates is because of the war and prices. And what does that mean? Higher mortgages, higher credit card interest rates, higher student loans. And then you see the cost of food and the cost of gas and the cost of farmers of urea, ammonia, and nitrogen and their fertilizers. Let's end this war to bring down prices.
Yeah, the president is trying to end the war. He's been trying to end the war for a couple of weeks now. He keeps thinking that that it's close to being over. He told me that a couple of times, and yet the Iranians keep coming back with a refusal to end their nuclear weaponry program. Are you saying that
Yeah, they're pretty much saying we're not giving up our nuclear enrichment. We're not giving up our 60% enrichment because you're showing us why we need it in the first place to have that option to go towards a nuke. So yeah, they're not giving it up. And the deal they propose is that, look, if you promise not to attack us, and for 10 and within 10 to 20 years, if you can abide by that and release the sanctions, we'll go ahead and we'll give up that 60% enrichment. But until then, they're telling us to kick rocks on it.
okay with Iran having a nuclear weapon?
I am not. And of course, we need to negotiate to get there.
Now, I get how some of you guys feel about ICE, but you guys got to understand, like, if you can't sit there and honestly judge the way that the Democrats handled the protesters, then you're not really being honest about it. Because if they was actually putting out law enforcement there, then Alex Preddy and Renee Good would still be here today. But there was no protest protection at all whatsoever enforced by Minnesota or Minneapolis. So if you can't sit there and honestly like put that into the equation as well, then you're honestly looking at it dishonestly, and you're only trying to demonize ICE. Which, I'm be real with you, yeah, some of the practices are wild, but in those two situations, the city could have definitely done more.
Enriched uranium out. We've had these conversations before about the JCPOA and how President Obama got 97% out. I don't want to relitigate it, but the point is that there are a lot of people who want to see a negotiated settlement. I hope you talk to Xi Jinping about his involvement in getting a negotiated settlement, get the enriched uranium out, keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and make sure that the war ends, because it's literally hurting American farmers, American consumers, price of food, price of gas, and it's preventing the Fed from doing what the president wants, which is cut rates. I mean, cutting rates would help the economy.
Bro, the Fed's pretty much just said, yo, Trump, you can forget about us cutting rates because inflation's up. And I'm sorry, but gas prices up as well. And that's going to lead to further inflation across the board. So sorry, but we can no longer cut rates. And this is what I'm saying. It's like the entire Trump agenda is like being walked back for war with Iran. And when the Democrats low-key take over in the midterms, I don't want to hear from MAGA because you sacrificed the midterms for war with Iran. And y'all should low-key and reconcile with that right now.
They can't do that while this war is ongoing and inflation is high.
Right. No, and I think that's why the president is trying to end it, certainly, to get the price of those commodities lower, oil, gas, and fertilizer as well. But of course, we did litigate this, and we already went through this before, that President Obama actually sent Iran money, as opposed to actually President Trump trying to stop them from having a nuclear weapon. But I want to get your take on what China said, because the president is making news right now. He just spoke on Air Force One to reporters, and he said that China agreed to buy 200 Boeing planes with the potential commitment of buying 750 jets. He also said that China agreed to buy soybeans, and he said that he would consider lifting sanctions on Chinese companies purchasing oil, but no decision has been made yet. Now, the president said that he did get a commitment from Xi Jinping that China would buy oil from America. We don't know if they're going to keep that promise, but he said they're going to send Chinese ships to Louisiana and Texas to buy American oil. And then on Taiwan, there were other things said, but let me get your take on those deals right now. What is your assessment of this trip?
Sure. I just have to say, for the record, my view is that President Obama didn't give money to Iran. He unfroze Iranian assets, but we can have that conversation some other time. Let me say on Boeing, I'm glad that China is buying the Boeing planes, but they're only buying.
But Congressman, wait, why unfreeze assets? Why give Iran, the leading state sponsor of terrorists, $2 billion so that they could go give that money to the proxies that.
Oh, yeah, guys, like I said, make sure to double tap that screen, like the video. And if you have any question, comments, jokes, or disagreements, as I see there are some in the chat, you can go ahead and super chat it in. I'll be happy to engage with it and, explain, my point further if you like. But other than that, I mean, like I said, you can debate the mods in the chat, or you can cry about it or whatever. But either way, make sure to double tap that screen and like the video.
That they support, like Hezbollah and Hamas. Why unfreeze money?
It was Iranian money that was unfrozen for 97% of enriched uranium to get out of the country.
Right.
President Trump tore that deal up. Now, there's tons of enriched uranium.
They never made a commitment
and the reality
to stop building a weapon. So why send them?
Whoa. That wasn't part of the JCPOA. Like, they never made a commitment to that. Yeah, because that wasn't part of the deal. The deal was, look, we lift sanctions. You guys stay below a 3.6% enrichment and a certain amount stockpiled, then we're all good here. We never said that, oh, yeah, and you can't build missiles and you can't support your proxies. No, that was never part of it. It was, you give us some of your stockpile. Yep, go about like over 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium that was removed from the JCPOA. We'll take off the sanctions. You can still enrich at that 3.6% for civilian use, and we're all good here. Like, their missiles and proxies had nothing to do with the JCPOA. So what is she talking about?
$1.7 billion when you didn't even have a commitment to stop building a weapon. You yourself said you don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
Bro, if they're only allowed to enrich to 3.6%, then yes, that's ensuring that they don't have a nuclear weapon. And they was abiding by that according to the IAEA. And they stopped abiding by that as soon as we got out of it, and then we started bombing. Well, we did kill General Qasem Soleimani. We labeled the IRGC a terrorist group, and of course, we put the sanctions back on them. Through those acts of aggression, that pushed Iran to 6% enrichment. That's why I say, through this pattern with Iran, it's kind of crazy how we think that actions of aggression is going to keep them away from a nuke when it only pushes them towards it.
Well, just so we're factual, he didn't send them money. It was their money that was unfrozen. I acknowledge it was unfrozen.
Matter. Why unfreeze
what we got
it?
out of it is,
you say it was their money. Other people say it wasn't their money. It was stolen money. But that's fine.
No, it's their money. Like, we took their money from oil sales that they made around the world in different banks. We just took it because we can, and they sold their oil in dollars. So when we put sanctions on them, we snatched that money. So I'm be real with you. Actually, we took their money and we went, and through lifting the sanctions, we're pretty much giving it back. So no, it didn't come from the American people. It came from Iranian oil sales.
Fine. Let's say it is their money. Why unfreeze the money? That you never got a commitment that they would stop building a nuclear weapon. Why are you sending them $1.7 billion so that they could go give it to Hamas? So Hamas can attack Israel.
Bruh. I mean, look, like I said, this was about their nuclear enrichment. Like, I get the argument of, oh, well, why don't we make sure that they wasn't funding Hamas? They didn't build up their missiles, because that just wasn't the concern at the time. That's Israel's concern. Our concern was their nuclear enrichment and making sure they didn't get a nuke. And Obama, low-key nipped that in the bud, but Trump kind of reopened the threat. So that's the problem there. You can sit there and cry about them getting their own money back and supporting Hamas and all that good stuff. But here's the problem. If you truly care about stopping terrorism and Hamas and all that good stuff, then you would low-key hop on Israel's ass. But since you work at Fox News, you know you're not about to do that, because the only reason why Hamas and Hezbollah exist is because of Israel. Sadly, that's just the sad truth of it. And I ain't going to go into too much details right now, but let's just say this. When it comes to the Houthis, that's be pretty not Houthis. But when it comes to Hezbollah, I mean, the constant invasion of southern Lebanon, that's the reason why Hezbollah exists. And of course, the treatment of the Palestinians, that's why Hamas exists. So I'm going to be real with you. They create their own terrorists, and I think they should deal with them, not us.
For 15 years, 97% enriched uranium out. Instead, what did we get? We had them having 60% enriched uranium when Trump tore up the deal. We had 13 American service members dead. We have Americans paying $4 at gas. We have food prices. Let me just finish, Maria. Let me finish, please.
Are you talking about the botched exit from Afghanistan? When
that has nothing to do with Iran. The botch exit.
That was Joe Biden.
That was. But look at the facts here. Because Trump tore up the deal, Americans are dead. Americans are paying more for food. Americans are paying more for gas.
Well, yeah, because Trump tore up this deal, this would let us on the route to. I'm sorry. It was just this, guys. Look at her face right now. I'm sorry. I just caught her with the most funniest face, and it made me laugh. I almost lost my train of thought there. Sorry, go back. It caught me off guard. I'm sorry, I'm done being childish.
But look at the facts here. Because Trump tore up the deal, Americans are dead.
That was the point I was going to make.
Americans are paying more for.
Like, yes, because Trump tore up this deal, this reopened the whole nuclear threat of Iran. Because Trump tore up this deal and committed those acts of aggressions towards Iran, that's why in 2021 it was confirmed that it had 60% enrichment, and they was enriching through those constant acts of aggression that Iran, not that Iran, but Trump did on them from 2018 to 2020. That's why we are here today, because Trump stepped out of the JCPOA for no good reason whatsoever. They just said, oh, it's a bad deal. I mean, oh, why? It doesn't make sure that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. I'm like, bro, they're enriching at 3.6%, and we got most of the highly enriched uranium out. So what are you doing? This is actually a pretty good deal. And it's Obama. I'm trust you, I'm not no Obama cheerleader, but I'm be real with you. He was kind of cooking with the JCPOA.
For food, Americans are paying more for gas. The Strait of Hormuz is less secure, and the war is unpopular. 70% of Americans don't want this war. Even Republicans are defecting.
But nobody wants war. But we also don't want a nuclear terrorist.
Let's talk about China.
We don't want a nuclear terrorist to have a nuclear weapon. Okay, we don't want a terrorist.
And Obama was on the road to achieving that.
No way. He didn't achieve anything. Obama did squat.
We can talk about.
I mean, shoot, they was only enriching at 3.67%. And they had a low stockpile of low enriched uranium. And we had eyes all over their nuclear capabilities. So, yeah, I'm be real with you. That's pretty much stopping them from going towards a nuke, because we had spotted one right away. Like, the IAEA would report it right to us. And here's the thing. Even when the IAEA was kicked out, they were still able to get the information to us that they reached 60% enrichment. So even with the inspectors kick out, we still know what's going on inside of Iran. So if they were going toward 90%, trust me, guys, we would know. We would know. It would be breaking news.
That's not true. Come on.
He unfroze all that money. Look, let's get to Taiwan. He unfroze the money. He gave the money to Iran. What did they do with the money? They gave it to Hamas, Hezbollah, and then they committed atrocities on Israel.
He should have built on the JCPOA instead of ripping it up and getting us into war. He promised us no wars, and he didn't want to go into this war.
I mean, let's be real, though. But if you wanted to avoid, a lot of people not going to like what I'm about to say, but if you wanted to avoid October 7th, well, then you probably should have just gave the Palestinians their own state. I mean, one state, invite them all in, make them all Israeli citizens, give them equal rights and all that good stuff. And that'd be nice. And y'all could have did that. And that had avoided October 7th. You could have also avoided October 7th with a two-state solution. But what's definitely going to pop off October 7th? You bringing in the red heifers, hollowing out, or pretty much saying that you're going to destroy the Alexa Moss, and then also getting Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords without recognizing or without answering the Palestinian question. That's how you can avoid October 7th, by making sure none of that goes down. But you made sure all of it went down, and boom, Operation Alexa Flood happens.
So in other words, you trust Iran. In other words, you trust Iran.
No, I don't.
Think Iran's going to keep their promises.
I mean, well, did we keep our promise to Iran? Like, let's be real here, because I do hate when they say, "Oh, do you trust Iran?" I mean, my nigga, I don't trust us, sadly. And I mean, do you trust Iran more than us? No, but I really don't have much trust with us when we entered this deal and we're the ones who backed out. We're the ones who broke the deal when we backed out and put the sanctions back on them for no reason, but just F it. I don't like them. Like, come on. Like, can we even, like, it's not about, do we trust Iran? It's about, do we trust ourselves to stay in the deal with Iran that they were abiding by the way. So like I said, it's not about, do you trust Iran? It's that, do you trust the next president to abide by that damn deal? If we even get into one with them again.
I like the Trump who was running in 16 and 20 and 24 saying, I don't want more wars. I don't want Americans dying in these wars. I don't want Americans paying for Iran. And who cared more about Toledo than
guys, let's take a little 4-minute break. And guys, if you have any questions, comments, jokes, disagreements, you can send it in within this 4 minutes. But in the meantime, enjoy this clip.
Hey, President Trump, how are those mass deportations going?
They said, you got to lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
Oh. Well, Surely, no new wars in the Middle East like you've campaigned on for years, right?
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. We should have never gone into the Middle East. We should have never gone into the Middle East. Under my leadership, we will turn the page forever on those foolish, stupid days. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. You're not going to have a war with me, and you're not going to have a third world war with me. The United States military began major combat operations in Iran.
Donald Trump issued an ultimatum to Iran: open the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours or America will attack their power plants.
Why is the Pentagon going to ask Congress for an additional $200 billion?
So we're in very good shape, but we want to be in the best shape.
Oh. So why are we going to war with Iran again?
You know, if we didn't do that B-2 attack, Israel would have been wiped out. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks after that.
Because Israel was determined to act with or without the U.S., our Commander-in-Chief and the administration and the officials I just named had a very difficult decision to make.
Miriam gave my campaign, indirectly and directly, $250 million. She was number one. Miriam and Sheldon would come into the office. I think they had more trips to the White House than anybody else I can think of. But they were very responsible for so much, including getting me thinking about Golan Heights.
Oh. Well, I'm sure there will be zero repercussions for this war, and it's probably only going to go on for like a week, right?
As we head into week 4 of this war.
As gas prices climb across the country, President Trump pressured allies to help secure safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
A major shipping route for oil has effectively been shut down amid this war, sending shockwaves through the markets, with gas jumping nationwide from an average of $2.92 in Kansas to more than $5 a gallon in California.
Look, gas prices are up. And we know they're up, and we know that people are hurting because of it.
Well, at least we as the MAGA movement still collectively agree that child transitioning is wrong, right? Okay. How about those Epstein files?
So this is a Democrat hoax because they're trying to get people to talk about something that's totally irrelevant to the success that we've had as a nation since I've been president. What this whole thing is with Epstein is a way of trying to deflect from the tremendous success that the Republican Party had. But don't talk about it too much because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us. It's really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends.
So who gave the order to flag records related to President Trump? To flag any records which included his name?
I'm not going to discuss anything about that with you, Senator.
Eventually, you're going to have to answer for your conduct in this.
Oh. Well, it kind of seems to me like the Republican president has slowly transitioned into a Democrat president. Hey, MAGA, why are we voting for these people again? One thing is certain. We didn't leave MAGA. MAGA left us. But the question is, are we going to allow that? Or are we going to take the reins from the man who started it all, but has sadly become the opposition to everything that we stand for? Or are we going to continue to lick the boot and bend the knee to people who don't give a shit about us? They use us for our vote. They lie directly to our faces. They protect child predators. They want to grant mass amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants. And now they're totally fine with children being mutilated and indoctrinated by their crazy-ass liberal parents. Fuck Trump, fuck Vance, fuck Rubio, fuck the Republican Party as a whole, fuck the Democrats, fuck them all. This is not the shit that we signed up for. Wake the fuck up.
Yo, and shout out to Shattering Illusions. Make sure you follow that guy on TikTok, and also make sure you double tap that screen and subscribe to the channel as well. Well, let's get right back into it.
Iran. I mean, how about building our manufacturing, investing in our people instead of getting in these foreign wars?
Oh, he is investing.
It's hurt the American people.
Investing in our people. He did no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. Would you move to try to overturn that should you get the majority?
I mean, here's a problem, and that's all good and all that good stuff, but when prices go up, it really doesn't matter. Like when wages don't go up, but you know, prices do, and wages aren't catching up with these prices, or nor is it catching up with inflation. Yeah, that doesn't really matter too much.
Are you going to try to stop the agenda, the Trump agenda, should the Democrats get the majority in November?
I don't think we'd blanket start to overturn everything that he did. If he did something that was reasonable, like pharmaceuticals. Well, I want to overturn the tax breaks to the billionaires and rather have
Yeah, I don't know about that one, dog. Is like, here's the thing. Here's the thing. The tax breaks for the billionaires is kind of a good thing because it does promote them to, make more jobs, expand their business, and all this good stuff. So it's actually a plus. The problem is, though, is that y'all can't have y'all cake and eat it. So what? It's either you're gonna lower regulations to make it easier for these guys to conduct business, but raise taxes, or you're gonna raise taxes but lower regulation. It's like, or I'm sorry, but raise regulation and lower taxes. Like y'all can't have y'all cake and eat it too. You kind of gotta pick with the billionaires or these corporations. Okay, you just can't have high regulation, high tax, and expect things to go well. No, that's that socialist utopia you guys think that you can bring in, and it don't work like that. It's either we're going to have low regulations but high taxes, or high regulations and low taxes. Y'all got to pick.
Money going to the working and middle class in this country.
Okay. That's what I thought.
I don't think billionaires should have tax breaks. Yeah. But let's talk about China. Fine. I'm glad that China's buying.
China in a second. I definitely want to talk China in a second. But let me just ask you this, because we just did this story. We just did this story in New York.
Here's the thing. I'm okay with billionaires getting tax breaks, but it depends on the reason why. If they're, I don't know, if they own land that creates jobs or give housing and all that, and they do get tax breaks for that already. I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with those type of tax breaks. Like if you're providing employment, housing, and all this good stuff, you're getting tax breaks for that benefits society. You should get tax breaks as a rich person. Like I'm in full support of that. But if you're not doing that and you're making things harder on the American citizens and we're kind of just supplicating that, then oh hell no, I'm not for it.
Hochul is moving the threshold down. You're going to pay a pied-à-terre tax if you have a second home in New York, not if your house is worth $5 million. No. Your house is valued at $1 million. Then you're going to pay a pied-à-terre tax if you have a second home in New York. Do you agree with that?
Yes, because you know what I believe, Maria, that the economy in this country is unfair and lopsided. Too few people, including in my district, which is 2012.
Let me just finish, Maria. Of the tax in New York. The top 1% pay the majority of taxes in this country.
No, that's a really good point. And like I said, I'm a capitalist, but I ain't no crony capitalist. I'll tell you that. But the problem is that, the Dems, they go a bit too far. Like, I get it. Y'all want to raise taxes and all this good stuff. But here's a problem with that. So y'all did all this bitching about tariffs and saying, oh, it's a tax on the consumer. Well, how isn't raising the corporate tax on these billionaires? How is that not going to get passed down to us? Explain that. If you raise it 10%, what's keeping them from raising their prices by 10%, just like you were complaining about tariffs? So it kind of sounds like, oh, well, taxing the rich is bad unless the Dems are doing it. That's what kind of kills me because, tariffs was a tax from the rich. Who are paying these tariffs? They're rich. And you're right. It can get passed down to the consumer depending on the competition in the market, of course. But the same thing could happen with any other tax you put on the rich. It could get passed down. So, like, what is this bullshit the Dems were on? It's like, oh, it's not okay to tax the rich until we do it. Like, really now?
You know it, and I do.
Maria, let me say this, and you may agree with me. Look, you can't have a country where a few people in a few places control the majority of the nation's wealth. That's not a democracy, and it's not sustainable. And
well, a shout out to my man Galactic. He's pretty much saying like, S.E.T, when has trickle-down economics ever worked? I mean, here's the problem. Trickle-down economic work, it's just not working as well as it should because we're letting trickle-down economics do a little bit of trickling over there in China and other parts of the world. So yes, the money, the jobs, all that good stuff sometimes go overseas and not a lot of it gets, prosperated down to the American citizen. It is what it is, but it's fixable though. That's something we can fix. Got to do a little bit of self-correcting, but we can fix that. Like I said, I'm never going to be a full-on socialist, but I do understand that this capitalism, that crony capitalism is a problem. And I ain't gonna lie, it's running rampant in our economy today. And it is what it is. It does need to be fixed. So I can't really say it is what it is because it does need to be fixed ASAP before most Americans turn socialist. And I can't blame them for doing so if we continue this practice of capitalism, crony capitalism, not capitalism as a whole. And you guys know what I mean.
world history, you've seen revolution when that happens. In Silicon Valley, you have 19 billionaires who have 12% of the economy. So what I'm saying is if America has been good to you, if America has been good to you, you can do good for America. You can pay a little bit of tax so people have health care, child care, a living wage.
And they do. I know plenty of billionaires. All they do is spend money. Hey, I know plenty of billionaires. All they do is spend money on health care. They spend money on hospitals. They spend money to education. They spend money on the arts. They send all their money, and they send all their money to all of these nonprofits. I know plenty of billionaires that do just that.
But they have an obligation to pay some tax so that we can have public goods and healthcare, childcare, and education.
They pay the majority of it.
But they're not.
The rich pay the majority of the tax in this country.
Warren Buffett has said.
No, you're mixing up words. That's not true. He was talking about capital gains
let me just finish.
I know exactly what Warren Buffett said.
Why is capital gains?
He was talking about capital gains taxes. He was not talking about income taxes. I know
but he's saying he pays less tax.
No,
yeah, like I said, there got to be a balance here. It's like the problem is the Dems try to have it both ways. They try to be able, they want to tax the rich and have high regulations on them, and that just runs them out of the country. And then, I mean, best case scenario runs them out of a blue state. But yeah, worst case scenario, they get ran out of the country, and we don't want to do that. But sadly, the Dems don't realize that. They're kind of like, well, arrogant when it comes to this. Like, think about it. Look at the wealth exodus that's happening in New York. And remember, before this happened, there was a whole bunch of cocky Dems going like, well, they won't leave New York. It's the best place ever. Why would they want to leave here? Because Florida got great weather too. Well, actually, no, I'm gonna be real with you. New York has terrible weather. But honestly, Florida's a great place to live too, bro. So it's like they have this very arrogant, like, I don't know, perspective of that. Oh yeah, we can just tax them the way we want to. We can have high regulations. They're just going to stay around and accept the abuse. No, they're going to move and go somewhere else. And corporations and high net worth individuals are leaving. They're doing it in California and they're doing it in New York. But for some reason, these Dems still hold that arrogant attitude that they can just do both to them, high regulation and high taxes. Y'all gonna have to give up on one. And then you could low-key win over the rich again if you just give up on one. Pick one. Taxes or regulation. What's more important to y'all? Protecting the environment or just, I don't know, doing whatever useless tax y'all want to impose?
He's not paying a salary. He's not getting a salary. He's not getting income.
And that's most of the billionaires.
Stock.
And that's most of the billionaires in this country. It's not fair.
You're mixing up taxes.
Right. So
I know all about taxes. Don't try it. You're mixing up taxes. You got capital gains tax and you got income state tax.
Yeah, so would you agree that we shouldn't have, in this kind of wealth inequality in an AI world, which is capital biased, that we shouldn't have millionaires plus having less rates on capital gains than someone who's a teacher or a farmer or a machinist is paying on their W-2s?
I don't want to crush investments. I want people to encourage. I want people to feel encouraged to buy and invest into the markets and put it in their 401k. The way to create wealth overall long-term is to invest in the stock market. That's 100%. I believe that. The way to long-term wealth creation.
Yeah, but 50% of people don't do that.
They do it in their 401k plans. More people than you know are invested in equities, and they don't even know it.
50% aren't in the market. 50% aren't in the market.
Before you go, we got to go real quick on China. Because on Taiwan, President Trump said he made no commitment.
I think a better argument would have been that, well, you got to understand, when they pay less taxes, they can expand their business. They can afford to pay higher wages. So here's the thing. I mean, you Democrats say you want higher wages, but you're going to take that away from the people through higher taxes. Like, and it's funny how you don't understand that math. Remember, tax at the end of the day is just an expense that you got to pay to the government. And maybe if you lowered that expense, you may be able to get what you want out of these billionaires, or at least, cut down on some of these regulations so they can get some shit done. Y'all got to give on something, God damn it. Like, bro, y'all can't have it both ways. Like, there got to be some Dem that's willing to listen to this argument, that's going to be like, you know what? You're right, Seth. You're right. We got to run on something. We just can't say we're going to fuck them both ways.
And as soon as the president got to China, you know what happened. Xi Jinping tried to set the table, tried to run the table by saying any mishandling of the Taiwan situation will mean conflict between the U.S. and China, and it will mean a very dangerous situation. So I ask you, do you believe the U.S. should change its position on Taiwan and actually back Taiwan?
I think we should affirm the one China policy, but we should have made it very clear there to Xi Jinping that the United States will not stand for any provocation militarily on Taiwan and that they cannot continue to be militarily coercive. Now, I'm glad that the president got 200 Boeing jets, but the reason Boeing's stock fell yesterday is because in 2017, President actually got 300 Boeing jets, and the expectation was 500. But the biggest thing I'm concerned about, Maria, on a bipartisan basis, is there is no way China should hold us monopoly with rare earths. We need to get a commitment that they will never do that again. They should not be holding this world monopoly.
100%.
Yeah, but let's be real.
I always enjoy it.
Whoa there. That's the problem, Dem. And I like Rohana. Honestly, I do like him. But here's a problem, though. That's the point. You can't sit there and complain about what China dominating in rare earth mineral refinery when you guys don't want to lift regulations for us to do our own rare earth mineral refining. That's what I'm saying. Is like you can't have it both ways. Like you list some of these regulations, we can get to doing some real mining here, doing some real refinery work with these rare earth minerals that we have our own of. But no, you guys want high taxes and high regulations out the ass, so we can't get none of that done. But then you want to complain about China and how we need to get it done to beat them. Okay, then I guess then you're gonna take away the regulation.